Is the Left Hook Boxing Show, and I want to talk about the fights that took place last night on Showtime. The main event was Kendall, Holt, and Timothy Bradley, but first of all, I want to talk about the undercard, and that was a fight between Librado, Andrade, and Vitaly, Tsypko. And I thought that was a better fight than the main event, although both fights were pretty entertaining. But Librado Andrade, he reminds me, and I hate to keep bringing up Margarito, but he reminds me of a larger Margarito. He is a guy that just keeps bringing the pressure, and he has good power, and he can deliver the blow, and he a lot of times will get outpointed in a fight in the early to middle rounds, but come the late rounds, his stamina and his punching power oftentimes wear down an opponent to the point where he can deliver the knockout blow. Now, he didn't deliver the knockout blow, although he did knock down Tsypko twice, and he was never really in trouble in this fight. He didn't lose any of the rounds, really, that I could see, or many of the rounds. He was constantly ahead, and Tsypko's a pretty good fighter. He's fought Lacey a couple of times. He lost to Jeff Lacey once, and then one was a no decision. And the thing about Tsypko, he's a Ukrainian fighter, and the thing I admired about him was that this guy just kept fighting, even though he was getting tagged by Andrade. There was times it looked like, seriously, that Andrade had Tsypko almost unconscious, but he still kept delivering blows, even though he was in trouble. So I admire that about him. I thought he did a good job, but Andrade did a better job, and he was delivering the blows, put Tsypko down twice. It went to the scorecards, and Andrade won. And this victory, which was an elimination fight last night, which means that the winner gets the right to fight the title holder in the division, and that is Lucian Butte. And Andrade has already fought Butte, and you've got to watch that fight that took place a while back. You got to watch at least round 12 of that fight, because it was an outstanding fight, and many people would say that Andrade got robbed in that fight. Now, Butte was ahead on the scorecards, but in the 12th round, with about 30 seconds left, Andrade tags Butte, and then Butte is walking around all dazed, like he's drunk, or like he's a zombie or something, and then Andrade comes in with a crushing blow and puts him to the canvas, and they start counting down. The referee starts counting down, and he gets to 6, and the referee sees that Andrade's not in his corner like he's supposed to be, in the neutral corner, so he stops the count, which allows the fight, there's very little amount left in the clock for the final round. It allows the clock to keep ticking, and Butte is up by the count of 10, but that extra little bit of time with him telling him to get to his corner allowed the fight to click off, and the fight was over by the time the count was over, and Butte had got up by the count of 10, so it went to the scorecards, and Andrade lost. Now, one thing about that fight is it took place in Canada, which is Butte's adopted hometown, just like the fights last night took place in Canada. And really, some people would say that maybe he got a little favorable treatment because he is from Canada, but that referee could have stopped that fight, because Butte was defenseless with about 15 seconds left, or 30 seconds left, when Andrade delivered that final crushing blow. But Butte was able to get up. It went to the scorecards. He lost. I think he has a good chance of winning the victory next time. Okay, but watch that fight. It's good, and tell me what you think about it. I think I think Andrade was robbed on that fight. Anyway, Kendall, Holt, Timothy Bradley. It was a good fight. I think the worst thing that happened for Kendall Holt was that he knocked Bradley down in that first round, because I think he got overconfident and he got a little laid back, thinking he was in control when he really wasn't, and he waited for too many counterpunch opportunities that just did not come. And Bradley was active. He was applying the pressure, and he was gaining the points. One funny thing, Bradley, I think, has fought a lot of amateur fights, but they would clutch. And usually when you clutch, you don't see much going on there. But Bradley was sitting there banging him when he was in the clutch, and Holt was looking at him like, "What the hell are you doing, man? We're clutching." But things like this kind of got in Holt's head and took him off of his game plan, and he wasn't focused like Bradley was, and he just allowed Bradley to take that fight from him. The announcers several times were saying that Holt was scoring with that left jab, and he was, but he just wasn't using it. And he needed to use that jab to score points. And if he would have done that with the 2 knockdowns he had, he would have won the fight. But because he was inactive and Bradley was active, that caused him to lose the fight. And I'm sure that Holt, when he watches that fight again, is going to be very disappointed in himself. And he sounded like he was very disappointed when he talked to the announcer after the fight. He realized that he lost the fight. Even though he got the 2 knockdowns, there's not a lot of people that were arguing anything different. But he did deliver that beautiful knockdown in the first round. And one thing after the fight, when that lady was interviewing him, I thought it was kind of funny. The lady was saying, thank you for a beautiful, or one of the most beautiful knockdowns I've ever seen. I mean, here's a lady talking about a knockdown like she's talking about a dress or something. I mean, I thought it was kind of funny. But he did deliver a beautiful left hook knockdown, and he got another knockdown in the 12th, but it just wasn't enough. He was waiting and waiting and waiting, and you can't wait all day in a fight, especially when you're fighting a guy that's applying the pressure and scoring the points. If you don't score some points, I mean, you get a 10-8 round, 2 of those, but you got 12 rounds, and the points, if the other guy's winning the rounds, it's going to add up to a victory for the other guy, and that's what happened on this night. So, good night of fights. Bradley, I'd like to see him fight either Mayweather, Pacquiao, Hatton, one of those guys. I think he'd have a chance against Hatton. I think the other Marquez. I'm sorry. I'd like to see him fight Marquez. I think Marquez, Mayweather, or Pacquiao would take him to school. But I think this guy, to increase his development, he needs to take on a big name like this, a skilled fighter. And I think Bradley is such that he works hard. He's very focused on his training. I think if he fought one of these guys and got beat, I think he'd regroup and learn the things he needs to learn to the point where he might be able to win a fight against one of these guys later on down in his career. So he's got potential. The one thing about him, though, he's a vegetarian, man. He doesn't have punching power. Hello, I bet you that's why. The guy doesn't eat any meat. He doesn't eat anything that comes from a live animal. Like, he won't eat cheese, he won't drink milk, that kind of thing, man. Goodness gracious, that takes a lot of discipline, but I wonder, man, if that's not affecting him to the point where he's not strong enough to deliver that crushing blow. But no argument to the fact that the guy's focused, he trains hard, and he's got a good future. Holt, he's got a future too. He's just got to make sure that he doesn't sit and wait. He's got to deliver the pressure himself and score some points, even while he's waiting for that knockdown punch, which he was able to get a couple times. But sometimes you don't get that, and if you don't, you got to be scoring points. So I think he learned a lesson in this fight, and hopefully he'll rebound. Now, one thing I promised y'all is I said that I would say you might be a fight freak if, and I'm going to deliver one of those things right now. You might be a fight freak if you've watched the Luis Castillo, Diego Corrales final round about 50 times on YouTube, and even on the 50th time, you still have to break out the Kleenex and dab your eyes a little bit. If you do that, you just might be a fight freak. For now, this is Rousey.